Coming up on Varsity Sports, our first champions of the basketball season have been crowned. We've got the highlights of Bishop Ryan's successful three-peat.
And we'll get you ready for the Super A's in North Dakota. Can Shanley stay unbeaten? And who will rise in Boys A to take the title? Tom Mix has the answers.
In South Dakota, the girls' state tournaments get underway tomorrow. We'll give you the complete overview, including which stars could break out at state.
All that plus Jay and I make our picks for all the championship games coming up on Varsity Sports.
And hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson. Well, championship season has now hit full swing, and we're going to get you ready here over the next 30 minutes, including the first of our state champions who were crowned in Minot last weekend.
Yeah, Bishop Ryan captured their third straight title last Saturday, and they came in as heavy favorites as usual, winning their last 80 consecutive games in Class B.
All right, let's take a look at the bracket, see how that championship game was set up, Jason.
Well, in the first round, we didn't have a lot of upsets, but you have to look at what Partial did to push Kindred to overtime, and then Kindred gets pushed again in the second round to overtime. This is an undefeated team that we're talking about, and so they were a little tuckered out coming into that title game against the 82-win-in-a-row team against Class B competition.
Yeah, Bishop Ryan not so much challenged in their first two games. They rolled into that championship contest. Let's take a look at the highlights now from Bishop Ryan and Kindred for the state B title at the MSU Dome in Minot. And we get started right away. Kelly Casper to Hannah Stewart for the lay-in.
At that point, it's only 8-8. Kindred was staying in it with the long shot, hitting their shots early on, keeping them in this game.
Alexis Piatz, though, finding a couple of teammates. That was Brooke Hyatt for three. She comes right back, finds Sophia Abraham with another triple.
Well, that's what they had to do, is get those shooters going, but that's not going to last all game against a team that's so good on the inside. Look at Gabby Bull take it strong to the hoop.
Yeah, if it's not Stewart, it's been Bull. Kelly Casper again here, pass to Cheyenne Schmidt. And this is your dagger right here, triple.
Yeah, it started to get out of hand in the second half. Cheyenne Schmidt, that's one of her 4 threes on this night.
And inside, Stewart finds Gabby Bull again. And Bishop Ryan, move it on. They just can't be beat.
No answer for those two big girls inside, Bull and Stewart, and especially when Cheyenne Schmidt is doing what she did, hitting 4 shots from the outside. Just too much firepower. Kindred, a very senior-heavy team, a very mature team, a little tired out coming into this game. A very respectable season at 26-1.
Yeah, they were phenomenal, certainly, and they earned their way to the title game by winning those 2 overtime games. But in the end, Bishop Ryan wins its 83rd straight game against Class B competition, and it clinches their 3rd straight State B title.
It feels awesome. We're so excited, and our hard work over the past 5 years finally were paid off, and going out like this is exactly what we wanted.
Hard work pays off. Just being in the gym every day and with the practice routines that we do, I mean, we don't necessarily like it at all because it's rigorous and it's hard, but this definitely shows that it pays off in the end, and I'm just overcome with emotion.
It is an amazing feeling to win 3 straight titles, especially when you're expected to do that.
Yeah.
And the last 2 seasons, they were challenged in that title game. This one, not so much. It was tied early on at 8-8. After that, Bishop Ryan took care of business.
You really see the experience of a program being in that situation before, and this time really coming and bringing their best effort. And certainly, what an accomplishment for them. Congrats to Hannah Stewart, Gabby Bull and company on a great run. 3 straight state titles in North Dakota Class B girls basketball. All right, stay tuned. Next, we're going to take a look at the State A tournaments in North Dakota with a little help from Tom Mix.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports. The Super A's are set to tip off in Fargo tomorrow, and to help us break it all down, we bring in Tom Mix of the Forum of Fargo-Moorhead. Tom, let's start with the girls' tourney. Shanley comes in as the heavy favorite with an undefeated 24-0 record. Anything you've seen that makes you think the Deacons could be vulnerable?
The one game where I saw that they were down in the second half against Red River what happened in that game was, for a stretch, is their shooting went just a little cold, and if you can make a run during maybe a cold spell that they have, you might have a really good shot at hanging with them. But at the East Region tournament, I didn't really see anything to indicate that, anything might slow them down here at state. So it's going to take a pretty big effort to put away Shanley if you're a team in that girls field there in Class A.
Okay, well, any other teams in the girls' tourney that could be on the upswing right now and might make some noise at state?
Well, I think Fargo Davies played Shanley really tough in the East Region Championship. If you remember, during the regular season, Shanley had 2 lopsided wins against Davies in the regular season, and they all came in February too, so they were pretty, relatively later in the year games. And Davies played them really tough there on Saturday in Grand Forks, and I really think that Davies could be a team that, once again, last year they kind of made their, push. That was one of their first big tournament runs last year. And I really think that they could be a player to get to the championship and have a rematch against Shanley. And I know that that's what Coach Safransky really hopes when it happens. When I was talking to her after that game against Shanley, she said, hopefully they get another try at them and they're heading in the right direction against, Shanley in particular. So, that could be the 4th time that they play this year. So who knows? If they're playing well, they could give them another game.
All right, Tom, let's switch over to the boys tournament now. There are a lot of great matchups in the first round. Which Thursday contest interests you the most, though?
Minot and West Fargo. That could be an interesting one there at 6 p.m. there at the Fargo Dome. They played each other in the first game of the year, and Minot won by 11 points, I think. But that was, that's the first game of the year. But if West Fargo is allowed to, push the pace in their favor and really make that game a transition game for themselves, get a lot of easy buckets, they could give the Magicians a pretty good game, I think, there in the quarterfinals right away the first day of the tournament. But Minot certainly had a great year. They're 23-1, number 1 seed. They're coming off a really big win against Century after a loss against Century in the regular season that bumped them out of the number 1 spot in the rankings. So I don't really expect the Magicians to give much, in terms of leeway right away in the first round. But if you were to say what could be the best game of the tournament there the first day, it could be the Minot-West Fargo game.
All right, time to put you on the spot, Tom. Come Saturday, which 2 teams in this Super A tournament will be cutting down the nets?
I'm going to go with the Minot boys. They've certainly had a great year, and I really expect them to, I don't think it's going to come easy for the Magicians, but I really think that the veteran group that they have, last year they certainly got to the semifinals, and I think that was a learning experience for those guys, and I think they're going to come back this year and do well. And then in the girls, the undefeated Shanley Deacons are going to remain undefeated, and I think that they'll push through and win a Class A title and repeat.
All right, good stuff again from Tom Mix from the Forum of Fargo-Moorhead.
We'll be watching those picks, Tom.
Absolutely. Well, there are 3 classes in South Dakota awaiting a champion. Next, we're going to take a peek at the girls' state tournaments.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back. Well, time to preview the girls' state tournaments in South Dakota now. And we're going to start with the big class, girls AA. Jason, here's a look at the bracket. As you look at these first-round games, which of these Thursday contests pops off the page for you?
Well, always these first-round games can be interesting, especially at the AA level, where the teams are so close together in talent. But obviously, O'Gorman has really put themselves on another level. They are vulnerable, though. They've lost a game this year. But to answer your question, which one really pops off the page that I want to see Pierre versus Harrisburg. Harrisburg comes in as one of the hottest teams in AA. They've really turned that success on over the last 2 weeks, getting 2 wins, winning their district. Danny Honner with 16 points per game. Sam Slaughter has really taken her game up to another level. That's going to be a fun team to watch against the number 2 seed Pierre Governors. Now, Pierre has had those couple losses this year, but really have been solid from beginning to end, and that's because of their future SDSU player, Sydney Palmer, 19.3 points per game. That's the kind of girl that can really take a team on her shoulders. Whoever gets out of this game, it's going to be a tough one in that second round battle. Could do some damage throughout the rest of this tournament.
You know what I'm interested in is that 3-6 matchup. You know, the bottom half of that bracket. Lincoln struggled down the stretch. Are they going to get things back together against a Washington team that knocked off O'Gorman? They're the only ones to do that.
These are 2 very Jekyll and Hyde teams. You don't know what you're going to get. They split in the regular season. Actually, Washington was very close to sweeping the regular season and lost it in the 4th quarter in Lincoln's gym earlier this season. But can Lincoln get it back together? That's the question. The answer is yes, they can. They have put it together to get into the state to qualify. They avenged a loss against Roosevelt. They just got really beat up pretty good by Roosevelt just a couple weeks ago. And last week had a huge win against them when they got things figured out on defense. And that's really been their key this year. Is when they get things figured out on defense, they are a tough team to beat.
All right, let's talk a little about some the individual players to watch in this class. This time of year, obviously the great ones step up and put their teams on their back. Who could do that in this tournament?
Well, I'm going to throw one out of left field a little bit. I'm going to talk about Izzy Van Veldhuizen. We just talked about Lincoln, and everybody talks about the Breck sisters, and they deserve it. I mean, Anna Breck and Ellie Breck combined for 33 points per game, but Izzy Van Veldhuizen shut Taggin Larson down the second time they played. They beat her up on one of the best players in the state and held her to just 1 field goal attempt when they gave up 33 points to her the first time around. So she will be a big impact player throughout this tournament. And a couple other players we got to talk about, though, is Anna Goodhope. She has really ramped her game up for Sioux Falls, Washington. So watch her against Izzy Van Veldhuizen in the first round. You got to talk about Jessica Mears and Kate Cartwright, 2 great players for O'Gorman. We already talked about what Sydney Palmer can do for Pierre. Brianna Kusler has had a great year for Aberdeen Central. She's a girl that can put up 20 points a game in this tournament. And then out in the west part of the state, Rapid City Stevens has had a lot of success with Taylor Molstad and Marissa Heikert, who have really played good ball all season long consistently.
And of course, the tournament being held starting Thursday in Brookings at Frost Arena. That's a really great venue for the AA girls tournament.
Yeah, you know, you talk to the coaches, and they would love to play in Sioux Falls or Brookings. Those are the 2 places that really come out to support the state basketball tournament.
All right, well, more previews to come. When we come back, going to take a look at Class A and Class B. That's next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports. We continue now with our South Dakota Girls State Basketball Tournament previews. We just did AA. Now we're going to move on to Class A. And Jason, this tournament taking place in Watertown. And let's start with the favorites. Just how good is St. Thomas More, the clear number 1?
Well, they are definitely the clear number 1. I think if you put them in the AA tournament, they would be right up there toward the top. So in this A tournament, there's no teams that are as complete as St. Thomas More. They have done it once again. Last year, they had an epic run in the tournament, just tearing teams apart. It was fun to watch because they are so dominant, but you almost felt bad for some of the other teams in the tournament. And this year it really could be the same. They are head and shoulders above the rest of this group. So many players, a couple future college players on this team, Alexis Sweedland, of course, and they're just going to be a train that's tough to stop.
And they're only lost to a Crofton, Nebraska team that just won its 4th straight state title in that state.
Yeah, just to show you how good Crofton is, they beat a Sioux Falls, Washington team in Sioux Falls earlier this year. And like you said, won another title in Nebraska. They are on that same level as St. Thomas More, though. St. Thomas More was beating them at halftime earlier this year at the Hanson Classic. But, man, I don't know how many superlatives we can bring out for this St. Thomas More Cavalier team.
Well, you talked about a little bit about Alexis Sweedland there. Obviously, it's been well documented on this show just how good of a player she is. But in addition to her, some of the other impact players we should be looking out for in
Well,
Watertown?
we got to look at a player named Megan Baltzma. This is a future Jackrabbit player, just a junior for Mount Vernon Plankinton. She has upped her game this year. She's averaging 15.7 points per game, 7.5 boards per game. She's really added the offense, and obviously with a 6'3 frame, you're going to cause some commotion on defense, and that's what she does. She disrupts shots in the lane, and she's got a nice partner in the backcourt. Michaela Karst, who's done a great job, 14 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 3.5 assists per game. So Mount Vernon Plankinton has that high-low combo that's going to be fun to watch between those two. And another player that jumps off the page for me is from Clark Willow Lake. This is a team that's qualified for the state tournament 4 times over the last 5 years. Michaela Huber is really the leader of this team. She's played with China Stevens just a couple of years ago, kind of was the second fiddle. Now she is the go-to player for Clark Willow Lake, 15 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, and get this, she's a 72% shooter from the field. I mean, I know she takes a lot of inside shots, but 72% from the field.
You still got to finish them.
Yeah, she gets some help from Michaela Prouty in the backcourt too, but yeah, Mackenzie Hubert's a player definitely to watch in this tournament.
All right, well, the Class Bs now are in Huron. We've got some interesting games to talk about here. This first round, Jason, which matchup do you see a potential upset?
Well, we've got a couple to talk about, and one of them is that 4-5 matchup. Jones County has had a good year, and they've got good players. I don't want to dismiss them, but the competition level they've played is not what DeSmet has played. DeSmet has rolled into the districts and the regions playing their best ball of the season, taking out a good Sanborn Central Woonsocket team, a team that made it all the way to the finals last year on their way to state. I think DeSmet is a team to watch. Another one to watch is Summit. How can they be a 6th seed coming into this tournament?
I was thinking the same thing.
A very good team that's obviously got a lot of tradition in this tournament. Whenever they do make it past Warner, they usually make it all the way to the finals. So coming in at a 6th seed, not a good draw for McLaughlin.
Yeah, that's tough for them, certainly. Well, Sully Buttes now comes in as the number 1 seed, despite losing to the number 2 seed, the Ethan Rustlers. Jason, which team do you think got the more favorable seeding?
Yeah, you know, seed points, you never know what you're going to get when it comes out. And Ethan did all they can do, playing a pretty tough schedule, going undefeated, and still getting that number 2 seed. So which side of the bracket, basically, is what we're talking about here, is the easiest road to the finals. And I think Sully Buttes did themselves a favor by getting that number 1 seed on the top, not having to go against a Summit or a first-round game against Viborg Hurley, who's a very formidable opponent for Ethan right off the bat. But, you know, it's a state tournament. These games are all going to be tough. You're going to have to play your best game to get all the way. And a lot of credit to those top 2 seeds. They're very, very good teams.
All right, now we've talked about some of the teams that you like in this tournament. How about individual players? Who could stand out here?
Well, again, it's hard to just pare down a list of a couple players, but the ones we want to focus on, a couple from Sully Buttes. Raquel Winchus, 19.8 points per game, 4.5 steals per game. She's just a sophomore. Her sophomore in the backcourt is Chloe Lamb, who might be the most talented player in this tournament at 15 points per game, 5 assists per game, a dynamic backcourt for Sully Buttes. Let's talk about Viborg Hurley, though. We don't see this team a lot. Abby Hora, this is fun when you get these 20-point scorers, you know, that really take their team to this level. She was 24 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, a very, very good player. And then we talk about Summit. They've got 3 players in double digits. One of them, Clarissa Paraboom, who's 16 points per game. And I have to mention Carissa Chamley. This is a girl who tore her ACL, you know, just a month ago, and decided to brace it up and play down the stretch and get her team to this position. Stories like that just show you how important it is for these girls at the state tournament.
Yeah, that's a great story coming in, certainly. Well, we've touched on now 5 state tournaments. The A's in North Dakota, both boys and girls. The 3 state tournaments on the girls' side in South Dakota. That means we've got 5 championship picks to make, and we're going to do that next. Stay with us.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back. Well, we wrap things up tonight with another round of high school hoops pick'em, where it's all about the winners. And again, this week, making championship picks, 5 of them. 2 points apiece for those. Here's a look at the standings as it stands. Tight race between the two.
These 2-pointers will go a long way
to
see who's going to decide this. Jay keeps picking up ground on me, and a couple different picks, and things could go crazy.
I'm just not going to let you put me away, Jandy.
All right,
let's get into it. North Dakota Boys A tournament in Fargo. Who do you like?
I think the West region has been a little better than the East this year, and the top team in the West all year, even though they slipped to number 2 in the rankings, was Minot, and I have to go with Minot for my championship pick.
I'm going to go the other way on the other side. The team that jumped them in the ratings, Century, they gave them a game not only in the time that they beat them, but they probably should have beat them twice. Kind of gave the first one away.
Tough first round game for them,
but
though.
Yeah, both of these teams have very tough first round. Minot has West Fargo, and Century has Wahpeton. Yeah. All right, to the girls A tournament now.
Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I think Shanley is much better than the rest of the field, although I thought that last year, and, well, they did it last year.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I like Shanley a lot. Red River has tested them twice. They could potentially see the Rough Riders in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Something to keep an eye on, but I don't think there's any way they end up losing. I like Shanley to go all the way. South Dakota girls now, 3 to talk about. Let's start AA in Brookings.
Oh, boy. I mean, I'm going to take O'Gorman in this one, but I don't have as much confidence as you would think you'd have as dominating as they've been this year. There's so many good teams in this field. I can see Lincoln, coming through and, putting it together at the last minute like they did 2 years ago, but I still am going to take the Knights. They're the best complete team.
I like O'Gorman a lot as well. I'm going to pick them. Harrisburg's the hot team coming in, certainly the team that a lot of people are talking about. Question whether or not they can put 3 in a row together. Class A now in Watertown.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the defending champs. I mean, St. Thomas More, we should almost pick what their average margin of victory is going to be.
That would almost be a more
And I think it's going to be close to 40 this year. I just think that they're that much better.
St. Thomas More is kind of head and shoulders above the field. You talked a little bit earlier about what they were able to do last year and how almost historic that run was. You just don't see a team dominate a state tournament the way the Cavaliers did last year. Finally, the girls B in Huron.
My preseason number 1 was Sully Buttes. They tripped up once this year, but I think they get some revenge and avenge that loss and take down Ethan in the finals.
The team that knocked them down, as you said, was Ethan. I like Ethan. Ethan has managed to stay unbeaten all year, and as you said earlier, they did play a tough schedule. It's not like they played a cake schedule. All right, that is going to do it for us for this week. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the tournament games, everybody. We'll see you back here next week.